NAFO has gone domestic. Biden will lead on an army of social media influencers, which may get their own briefing room in the White House. Boy, Voxbot, move up in the world to target young voters. So why am I reporting on this story? Well, I'm just trying to get you guys prepared. What's coming? Like, you're going to have all these people with this concern trolling bullshit. Oh, man, I know I'm a socialist. I know I'm a communist. I know I believe in revolution, but Donald Trump, he's a threat to our democracy.
That's
we got to rally behind him.
Lord.
So this propaganda is coming, CJ. The war is about to begin. If people was upset at RBN before, just wait.
Oh, yeah.
The influencers get their messaging from the White House. So we'll do this short story. I want you guys take on this. Biden and what I call NAFO going domestic, because what you see with the NAFO troll farms, I believe was just a beta test. You're going to see that with the Biden administration and stuff moving forward, establishment stuff moving forward. But Key and Russ, I'll start with you guys. If any take on this, and now pass it to CJ.
Sorry, Russ, go ahead. No, that's okay. You can go.
I hadn't really been thinking about this too much, but yeah, this is going to be really strange because even into 2020, this movement that had coalesced around the Bernie Sanders campaign hadn't really fragmented the way that it has now. Yeah. When we get into that, and I'm of the opinion, I've talked about this a lot on the show, I've been saying it for a while, that in the end, Ron DeSantis is going to be the nominee. So it's going to be a lot of, he's a fascist. He's going to do in Florida. He's going to do to the nation what he did in Florida. It's going to be a fascist takeover. It's going to be the end of democracy, although they'll say the same thing about Donald Trump, although they'll have some more legitimate policy accomplishments on Ron DeSantis's part to base that argument on. But that is going to lead to a much more furious and nasty fight between channels like ours and channels like the Majority Report.
Man,
that is going to be, I hadn't really thought about it, but now that you say it,
it's going to start. It's going to be bad. Yeah. I already went through it. I went through it with a smaller platform than I did now. I was just a Twitter account that had 30,000 followers coming out the Bernie campaign, and I went to war with people. And not because I was going after them. I was talking my shit on my timeline. And they were like, how dare you, Nick? I thought you was different. That's a divorce. So when 2024 comes out, these same people that pretend they're radical, man, I'm down with RBN because they're speaking revolution. Wait till we tell them how ridiculous it's going to be to support Jim Crow Joe 2024. Just wait.
Yeah. Right in the middle of that election. Yeah, it's gonna be worse than fighting the Hellbots in 2016.
Yeah, it's gonna be something, and we're gonna be there to literally debunk the propaganda the same way we debunk the propaganda of Morning Joe. Like when I see the progressive media, Bernie Sanders industrial propaganda, the NATO-led propaganda, see it no different as Morning Joe now. Like they are the youth wing of the Democratic Party, so they're gonna have briefings, and we did report on this months ago. So this is almost like a follow-up story. So we did stories about how there are people on TikTok that got briefings from the Biden administration regarding how they should do messaging on COVID and on Ukraine. And just so happens, big people like Vols got the same narrative as the Biden administration on crucial stuff like Ukraine and COVID. You guys want to convince me that these things are coincidences? Anyway, any last thoughts before we move on? Go ahead, Russell, Nikki.
On the rare occasion that I catch the YouTube pseudo progressives now, pseudo left, it's funny to me that they're still I don't really watch them anymore, just like I don't watch MSNBC anymore. But when they start talking that shit about the movement we're building, it always takes me aback that they're still talking that way. Like what? Right. Like really? What movement are you talking about now? Like you're peddling that to people that this is a movement. The only movement going on here is you moving into a bigger house from the money that you're grifting off these people. That's the movement that you're running.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think, look, all they have, whether it's progressive indie media or corporate media, all they have in 2024 is negative feelings about either DeSantis or Trump, whoever it is. one of the results of the rise of Trump is that it made a lot of people who don't know much about politics. It made them confident that they do know a lot about politics because they can see very obviously that Trump is a bad guy, and so they think, well, if I can identify an asshole when I see them, that makes me, a political thinker, right? And so they get involved. And whether it's an MSNBC audience or a TYT audience, that's all they have.
Yeah.
Will the influencers make a big difference? I don't know. I think in 2024, you're going to have a very similar dynamic to the midterms, which is the Democrats are basically telling the GOP, here's the country. It's yours if you want it. You just have to be smart enough to take it.
Yeah.
And there's no guarantee that the Republicans will be smart enough to take it, because as much as we rag on Democrats, since we're a left of center outlet, obviously, the GOP has a lot of their own problems as well, right? Like they can easily fuck this up too. And it's going to be decided at the margins in certain states, just like the midterms were. Most of those races, those statewide races, broke the Democrats' way because of the Roe v. Wade thing. If the Republicans don't come up with an answer on that issue, it might happen again, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of where we're at. I don't see there being any organic groundswell of sentiment that really pushes a certain side to an overwhelming victory. I see politics as very stagnant right now, the kind of politics that the sort of quote unquote progressive indie media people are selling, as well as MSNBC. I think the real action that's happening right now is the stuff that channels like yours and channel like ours are actually covering. That's one of the reasons why we're gaining some momentum. We're growing slower than they are because there are fewer people who are paying attention to these kinds of issues. There's a smaller market for Workers Strike Back than there is for even a Marianne Williamson sort of online campaign, right? But in the long run, I think it's pretty obvious that our cause is far more worthwhile, and I think in the long run, that's why we will be just fine in terms of our space. But I think in terms of like short term, 2024, the influencers, yeah, I mean it sounds like a gig for a few lucky people who get a gig, which is all the Democratic Party is anyways. It's just a big gig machine.
That's what they're about, getting people to get a job.